Almost half of all Republican respondents, 43%, are against public schools teaching the history of racism. That poll was taken after Virginia's gubernatorial election appeared to turn on that issue. And a new movement to ban certain books from school libraries is gaining momentum in both Virginia as well as several other states. Joining me now, Roland Martin, host and managing editor of Roland Martin Unfiltered. It's why we bring you back. You are unfiltered and I love it. So here we go, Roland. Why are the Republicans more resistant to this teaching of history? I mean, it's history. There's no going back and changing history. From the point of view of those who were and still are victims of racism, address that one first.
Easy, because the Republican Party, they want to teach his story and not actual history. This is white fear. I'm literally publishing a book in the first quarter of next year on this very issue. And this is the fear about the browning of America. It's this whole notion of the redefinition of American history. The reality is we were all taught these various things that excluded African Americans, Native Americans, excluded Latinos and Asians. Frankly, if you were not white, you were pretty much excluded. And so now all of a sudden, when you see the redefinition, that's what angering Republicans. That's why they hate the 1619 Project. That's why they've always hated folks who are talking about history. Dr. King often talked about this as well. Others did as well. And so that's what you're seeing right now. And it's reflective in their politics. And see, the issue, Alex, is a lot of these folks say, oh, no, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. They don't call themselves racist, but they are racial.
But, Roland, have you had a chance to talk to these folks who say the history of racism shouldn't be talked? Is there anything you think you could say to convince them?
Well, here's what happens. What happens is they say, look, these things happened long ago. Why can't you just move along? Okay, you haven't moved along from 9/11. What about some other things that you haven't moved on from? And so there's this constant situation of telling people of color, you need to move along. But the other problem is they aren't seeing how this issue of race and what the real American history is important for white Americans to know and understand. And so what really needs to happen is you need white children, white youth, white teens saying to their parents, you need to back off. This is what we're seeing, I'm telling you. And this is not going to go away. This has nothing to do with Trump. I said this in 2009. This is going to be the next 50 to 100 years in America, because what we have seen in the past has been, frankly, America seen through the prism of white America. Now, black folks, Asians, Latinos, Native Americans now get to have a say. We now have people of color who are hosting shows, who own their own shows and networks like myself, people who are running media outlets. And so we've always been defined through the prism of whiteness in America. Now, all of a sudden, we're looking at America through a different lens, and that's very unsettling and uncomfortable. That's why, watch for the key phrases, Alex. Ooh, the redefinition of what it means to be American. These are not our values. Understand what that means when you hear those phrases and how Republicans use those phrases to drive white anger at the ballot box, which you saw in Virginia.
We did. I have a quick last question for you. Congressman Paul Gosar, you know he's facing censure for that cartoon video of him stabbing New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to death. I mean, he said it was symbolic. AOC is one of the most threatened members of Congress. What kind of consequences do you think he should face?
Well, first of all, Republicans have no guts whatsoever. Gosar is a white nationalist, white supremacist who's in Congress, period. His own family despises him. So we know exactly what he is doing. But the fact that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is gutless and his party is gutless, I need everybody to understand the Republican Party has no problem with thugs like Gosar being in Congress, folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is who they are. And so Democrats need to understand this is what you're dealing with. Folks who have no shame, there is no bottom. And so he should be kicked out of Congress. At the least, he should be censured, but they're not going to do it because you know what? They are appealing to the people who Gosar, who love what he's doing. They need their votes, and they understand that. They always understand it. You've always understood that, and that's why you're not going to see any action taken against him, because they want those folks at the polls in 2022.
Roland Martin, I want to thank you in particular for spending part of your birthday with me today, my friend. Thank you so much. Happy birthday. Cheers to you.
3 years around the sun.
It's all good.